the Panasonic Lifetime New York City Triathlon Race Logistic and Injury Webinar. We've got a bunch of attendees that are already signed on. I'm just going to give everybody another 2 or 3 minutes to logistically get themselves on this webinar, and then we'll get ourselves rolling through this. I know everybody has probably hopefully done their training and are ready just to sit and listen for a few minutes, but I'm not going to take up too much of your time, and obviously we'll have some ample time if there are questions and answers that we can go through in the last few days before the triathlon. So if you can just hang on for a few more minutes. Alexa, are we heard very well?
Sounds great.
You broke up a little bit. Yes, you did hear me?
Yes, everything sounds good from my end.
Excellent. Okay. All right, we'll give people 1 more minute before we get started, and then we'll go through all of this. All right, everybody. So again, welcome to the Panasonic Lifetime Tri New York City Triathlon Race Logistic and Injury Webinar. And my name is Dr. Mark Klion. Alexa, who's one of the organizers, is on with us also. From a logistics standpoint, if you have any questions, hopefully you're able to type them in on this Citrix to webinar site. And please do so if there are any questions or any problems that you might be having during this webinar, and hopefully we can answer all of the things for you. So let's go ahead with all of this. Just a little bit of my background. Bottom line is I've been the New York City Triathlon Medical Director now for, I think, the last 7 years. I'm an active racer myself, a variety of triathlons, marathons, and ultra races. So I kind of live what I teach, which I think gives a unique perspective to this. I've raced the New York City Triathlon a bunch of years. I'm actually supposed to do it this year, but unfortunately I broke a bone in my wrist while training for another race, so unfortunately I won't join you guys, but I will be there at the end of the race to make sure that you guys get through safely. So everybody should know that the race date is July 19th. We do know that this is a triathlon. Again, it's an Olympic distance tri. The interesting statistic about this race is that the average finish time for this race is anywhere from 3 to 4 hours. The pros, sometimes on a good day, can break the 2-hour mark. The elite athletes go approximately 2 hours to 2 hours and 40 minutes. And then the crowd goes in between 3 and 4 hours. So again, this is a long endurance race, and I hope you've had your training with regards to the duration of this event. Again, if you've not raced this course, it's a closed course. There are no cars on the bike ride. The pedestrian traffic is a little hairy sometimes in Central Park, but for the most part, you're on a protected course and are free and clear from other potential problems. There's approximately 4,000 participants. It's a busy race. It's a lot of people, and the life do a great job at making this a very safe person. I'm here to make sure that from a medical standpoint and an injury standpoint, you're well protected. We've got about 1,500 volunteers for this race, including about 100 medical people that will be lining the course. Everybody who's in medical will be wearing a red polo shirt. So if there are problems along the course, please do contact one of us and we can get you the help that you actually need. From the basics, some of the nutrition on the course, there will be cliff shots at the first run aid station as you enter into Central Park, and that's really the only nutrition from an eating standpoint that will be provided. Gatorade and water is available to all other rest stops, as you might say. Medical support at every aid station. We have medical support. And at the finish line, we have a huge tent that will provide any care that you could possibly need on course. So what you need to know, again, it's one race, but it's 3 separate events. You basically have 12 days till the race, so it's coming up soon. So, some of the points that I always like to make is that you can only control what you can. There are going to be things about this race that are going to be out of your control, and one of them is weather. There's no long-range forecast as of yet, except more than likely it's going to be hot and steamy, as it always has been. So don't worry about that. If it rains, don't worry about that. Interesting, there's a grid system that's been set up to keep you safe in terms of a flag system with respect to thunderstorms, lightning. That will be gone over with you during your race briefings, which again are mandatory to go to in order to race. But don't worry about those things because you're not going to be able to change it. Just do what you can. For the next 12 days, you're in position to be able to do that. We'll go over what you can do in the last 1 to 2 weeks to help make your race better. And what if you're injured? If there are injuries that are occurred over the last 2 weeks and you're still nursing something along, we can talk about that too, and I will go over some of that. And the piece of advice that was always given to me, which is true, is be prepared to change your plan. You might have your nutrition down, your hydration down, everything about your race you have visualized and gone through over again. More than likely something's going to change. And if it does, you need to be prepared for that. So you have to think of those scenarios, and we can kind of go through some of those, but prepared. It's not the end of the race if you get a flat. It's not the end of the race if you drop your salt tablets. There's always ways to make up for that. You just have to be prepared to do that. So let's go through some of that. In terms of the last 1 to 2 weeks, you're basically in a taper period. There is nothing that you can do in the next 1 to 2 weeks that is going to make you faster, make you stronger. It's probably only going to hurt you. So in this period of time is when the body needs to recover, the body needs to rest, getting adequate sleep, getting adequate hydration, getting adequate nutrition are all the essentials during this taper period. Now, for some people, they might have tapered a week or so before. Some people have a short taper. Everybody's a little different. Everybody always feels a little sluggish during this period, and that's a normal process where your body's healing itself. And what's helpful through this period is that once race day comes and the adrenaline starts to kick in, you should hopefully feel very fresh. But so again, in this 1 to 2 week period, please do not push the volume. Please do not push the intensity. You can still maintain intensity at a certain level, but you should be decreasing the duration at which you're doing. So cutting yourself down by 75% of the workload maybe through this week, and then maybe even below 50% next week, right through race day. Equipment, this is the time that you should check in your equipment. You should take your bike into a bike shop, make sure that everything is lubed up, gearing's all set. You should check your shoes, check your helmet, check your wetsuit, check your goggles, make sure they fit. This is the kind of the final time to get that set so that you have no problems on race day. Sometimes it's helpful to bring 2 pairs of goggles with you, just in case you drop it, you lose it. Always helpful to have some extras with you. I think visualization is another important aspect in this period. When you're not training as much per se, you should be thinking about the course, thinking about what you're going to get yourself into, and prepare for a scenario that might happen. What am I going to do when I get a flat? What am I going to do if I drop my salt tablets? What am I going to do if I miss drinking that bottle of water? Think about those things. Think about how you might try and change that. The other aspect of this period is to think about what's going to happen when you're done with your race. If this is an A race and this is a B race for your season, well, maybe your season's over. Maybe it's not. Maybe you've got another race the following weekend or 3 weeks from now. Think about how you're going to transition and build from what you do at the New York City Triathlon to make this summer the best race season possible. So what if you're injured? What happens? Well, we all know that injuries are not an act from God. They happen because it's a breakdown point. Our tissues, muscles, tendons, ligaments, and all other tissues of our body are made of collagen. It's no different than a rope. And when we push on that rope or we pull on that rope, sometimes injury occurs. Classic injury healing is bleeding, causes hematoma formation, which is the scar tissue, which then ultimately forms the healing tissues. But as you overdo it and you repeatedly don't allow the body to heal itself, you develop scar tissue formation. Once that happens, that's the injury. That's when it becomes clinically apparent. You develop pain, swelling, and soreness. But the good thing is all injuries are curable if they're caught early. So hopefully no one's really suffering from that. Maybe a few aches of pain. As I said, this is the period of time to kind of take care of that stuff. We're all bad patients. We all want to push through these things. We'll have friends that say to ourselves, let's work it out. You'll be fine. Don't listen to your friends. If it hurts, you have to back off. The interesting thing about these overuse cases, it's not as if you fell, broke your clavicle, hurt your shoulder, did some major, bruising or contusion to the extremity. There's no real sign of the injury other than it hurts. So you have to be careful. If there is pain, you've got to take care of this. We take positive actions. If it hurts, we try to change the activities, all right? So if you're having problems running, you could still bike. Sometimes that's an easier activity. If it hurts biking, sometimes swimming is a little bit easier. You could do running in the water to make these things somewhat go away. There is good pain and bad pain. I would classify it as good pain as, well, maybe it's a little sore when I start, but it seems to warm up after a period of time. That's probably okay to take care of. I would still pay heed to that type of discomfort, but I think you can get through that. If it's pain with every repetitive activity that you do, that's something that you have to really modify that activity and actually seek out help. This is a little too much for this period of time over the next 2 weeks, but you should often look at your logbook. So if this is your A race, or you've got a race that's coming up after this race, look at your logbook. Look where you might have made a mistake in the weeks prior to this. Find a cause for it and don't make the same mistake. And obviously, if you can't figure this out, there are people that can help you. Someone like myself, there are obviously a myriad and numerous sports docs that are around the New York City area or wherever you might live to help you out with these things. We talked about activity modification. Ice is a perfect thing for pain and swelling. Even if it's not an acute injury, but there is pain and swelling, ice applied to that area, not more than 10 to 15 minutes, can help reduce some inflammation. Elevation does help with inflammation. And often, we talk about missed workout syndrome where, geez, I might have had the sniffles, I might have had a work-related function, and all of a sudden I missed my workout. Well, let me try and double up tomorrow because I can't miss that workout. That's water under the bridge. Do not try to double up those workouts because that's the overload injury. That's where you're going to have problems associated with this. So be careful. Sleep is the optimum time for your body to recover. Hormonal levels change during sleep, and that's when cortisol, a stress hormone, and growth hormone are most prominent trying to heal your body. So try and get the sleep that you maybe haven't gotten over the last few weeks, in this last 1 or 2 weeks. And obviously eating is very helpful too in this. People do exercise to lose weight, but you can be in a negative calorie balance, which can adversely affect your performance as well as potentially cause injuries. So be careful about that over the next 1 to 2 weeks. So let's talk about some race logistics. In the swim, it's a 1 kilometer swim. It's an incredibly strong current. In the beginning years of this race, there were many problems with this, that people got off course and actually missed the exit. At this point in time, as you'll see on the next slide, the course is completely contained. There will be kayaks, boats, swimmers. There'll be a variety of individuals that will keep you close to the wall, the sea wall. That there will be spotters on the wall, sure that you're safe, but there still is a tremendous current. So if you're fortunate enough to be in that current, in the wave that you might be in, your swims could vary anywhere from 13 minutes to 18 minutes. You could be a potato chip bag and float down the river and have a world record time. So don't be concerned about this. There is no practice swimming for this event. So you need to do something at the swim start to get you prepared for this. Everybody wears wetsuits. This is a wetsuit legal race. And Alexa can maybe chime in at the end in terms of water temperatures. I don't think that it's ever gone to a non-wetsuit swim, but I might be wrong with that. But so anyway, I think the big caution about this is that your transition area is 1 kilometer away from the swim. Please do not put on your wetsuit in transition, walk up to the start. It's a warm summer day in the morning. It can be humid, and you can lose an incredible amount of fluid during this period of time. Become dehydrated and start your race off in a terrible shape. You have plenty of time. Make sure you have plenty of time thinking about how long it takes you to walk from, for 1 kilometer in your shoes, carrying your wetsuit. Allow ample time so that you can put on your wetsuit, at the swim corral start. Lubrication is essential for this. If you've not used it, you should get some type of body glide, some synthetic lubricant to put around the neck, to put in the armpits, to put in the groin, to put in every area that wetsuit is going to make contact with so as to cause irritation. If you have never used a wetsuit and are planning on using a wetsuit, over the next 1 to 2 weeks, please get into a swimming pool with your wetsuit and try it out. They can be constricting. They can cause people anxiety about breathing, and especially when you can't warm up in the swim and you jump into the water, it can cause an incredible amount of anxiety that's there. Shoes are recommended, although the race crew does an incredible job at cleaning up that path. There can be pebbles, there can be metal objects, there can be glass that's there. So please wear shoes, and I believe that there is a clothing drop at the top of the swim start where you can leave that stuff for you. It is a time trial start, so that approximately 15 movers will go in at 20-second intervals. So do not feel that you're going to get crushed by people jumping in with you or lowering themselves in with you. You have ample time. If you are afraid of this start, please don't be. This is one of the easiest swims in any triathlon that I have ever done. You blow the whistle and tell you to go in, count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, let everyone else go in, and then you go in. And you will be at the back of that little looping. And then just swim on your own. It's a very easy swim, so please don't stress about this swim. The pictures here are showing you that on the left that's the contained course. All of those markers on the left represent either moored boats, jet skis, and other boats. There will be spotters along the seawall looking and making sure everybody's safe. There will be kayaks in the water with people on them helping you. Again, if you need assistance, you can hold onto a kayak, but you cannot use them to swim any further, otherwise you will be disqualified. On the right, you will see that there is a large pier that goes up around the tennis courts. There will be porta-johns located up on the right-hand side. Always a good pointer is to bring a little toilet paper with you along the way, or even little wet wipes, because you never know how many people go before you, and as much as the planners plan, there won't be toilet paper for you. So having that stuff with you, obviously you can throw out at some point in time, is a great little key piece of advice. So the bike, it's a 40-kilometer bike. There are 2 transition zones, which you'll see in a second. There's the red and yellow transition zone. If you're in the red, that's closer to the swim. You'll get on your bike a little bit faster. But the yellow is closer for the run, so you'll run a little bit less than people in the red. So it works out in both ways. The most important thing about this transition is that you wear your helmet. The minute you get into transition, please put your helmet on and buckle your helmet. If you leave transition without your helmet buckled, you will be disqualified from the run. The other aspect of this is the correct gearing. Once leaving the transition zone, you will have to ascend a very sharp, steep hill. Please put the bike, the front ring should be in the small ring, and the back ring should be in the large ring. No one is really racing at that point from transition to the time you get onto the West Side Highway, so please pay attention. We've had falls in that area, and we discourage people from fasting. We'll have volunteers that will demand that you slow down through this period of time. We really want to avoid problems, and again, you will neither win nor lose the race by trying to make up time in this area. The good thing about this race course this year is that they resurfaced a large portion of the north section of the road. So for the first part of it, it's a relatively flat with a very slow, gradual uphill going past the George Washington Bridge. And there's still some potholes or rough terrain through this region. And again, please remember to stay right, except if you're passing. This will be gone over during the other briefing. But once you get past the toll plaza at the Henry Hudson Bridge, it is completely resurfaced. It is like a racetrack. So it is fantastic terrain. Hopefully it will be dry, but that will just be a gorgeous section of an out and back that you will enjoy every moment of the hills that are there. Nutrition and hydration, this is something that you're going to have to bring for yourself. There are no aid stations on the bike for this course. Even at the turnaround station, there's no aid station. So please carry all essential liquids and food substances on this portion. The key to having a successful race is, even though the swim is very short, you probably really need to start hydrating during this bike ride and having some calories. Average calorie per racer can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories per hour. So do that accordingly with respect to that. But you have to carry your own stuff, through this time. Again, we talked about transition coming back. You'll go down to 56th Street, make a complete U-turn, and come back up. And then again, you will go through the circle 79th Street at the boathouse, and there's a very short, steep hill that we will ask again of you to stay clipped in and to ride slowly, because we've had multiple accidents in that region. So that's a very slow, safe zone that we'll ask you to go through. This is a general bike course. This up and back, up through the West Side Highway to the Henry Hudson, to the Washington Parkway, and back down to 54th Street, turnaround, or 56th Street turnaround, and come back to the boat basin. These are the two transition areas. It's transition red, transition yellow. Transition red has a little bit shorter run from the swim. Transition yellow is a little bit longer, but when you get off the bike to transition yellow, you are poised to head on the run course. So the run, this is the most spectacular run that you'll encounter. It's 10 kilometers. It cuts right through the heart of the city on 72nd Street and enters you into a very hilly run through Central Park in kind of the reverse direction that most people go. Again, pedestrian traffic, we do a great job at trying to stop people, but there will be New Yorkers walking their dogs across your path. Please take care of this and be careful of this, but we'll try to do the best job we can at keeping the course clear for you. There will be aid stations at every mile, and at every mile there will be medical professionals that will be there to help you. At both red and yellow transition, there will be a medical tent if something is needed, as well as at the swim exit, there will be a medical tent in case anybody needs them. The finish line, as you come through, there will be people handing out wet towels to you, water, giving you your medals. If, God forbid, you need med attention, please do not be shy. Come to us. We are on the left-hand side. Look for someone who's in red and, get some help from them. But we are equipped to do everything that you could possibly imagine for you, and we'll try and make your race experience the best that you could possibly have. This is the basic run course. On the left is the red and yellow transition, and the loop around Central Park, which is a very hilly loop. There are two, I believe, water sprinkler stations. If it's hot and humid, it's very helpful to have water on you to cool your core temperature down. Take sponges, take ice cubes, take what you can, because lowering your body temp can be the difference between having a successful race or coming to the medical tent to be treated for heat exhaustion. So please, let's think about the weather that's out there and what you need to do to have a successful race. So from run safety, triathlon safety, be prepared. I hope we have given you some tidbits on what can help make your race day successful, and what can help this next 1 to 2 weeks bring for you. Have fun, because it's a great day. A lot of fun people that are out there. It's a great city to race in if you haven't done this before. Race day nutrition. Again, this is important. But I would say to you, the night before, in terms of food, would be something light the evening before, because remember, food transits in about 12 hours. So whatever you have the night before is something that you're going to have to get rid of before the race. I think if you are going to conceptually carbo load, that should be done 2 days beforehand. I think getting hydrated through the day before is essential, depending upon the weather. Something I didn't mention was that right before the swim, it's helpful as you've now left transition, you've walked, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it might be. You probably had breakfast 3 hours beforehand, and now your blood glucose level is down a little bit, and you're just about ready to race. What I can do is we'll pack a goo or some gel blocks, and about 20 minutes before I am, to start my swim, I'll eat those gel blocks of goo and have with me a Gatorade bottle or some water and drink about 8 ounces to 10 ounces of fluid. The good thing about this race, you are in wetsuits if it has to be raining, and you don't feel shy about it. You can certainly pee inside your wetsuit, and no one will have any idea that you did that. And that's not an unusual, common occurrence. But I definitely have something right before the swim. That's a good setup for the race itself. The day before, yes, you've got to come to your meeting. Please spend some time off your feet. If you're new to New York, walking around the city is okay, but again, it's going to tire you out. Talked about bike gearing in transition. It's super important that you don't fall going up that hill. Helmet first, buckle must be. Again, dismounting. When you ride in, there will be a dismount line. Please get to that dismount line beforehand, before you get off that bike. It's important that you dismount at the right place. Probably the other most important piece of information is you must give back your chip. If you finish the race, we will take it from you. If you go to a medical area and you cannot complete the race, you must take off your chip and give it to one of the medical individuals who will be responsible for it. If after, let's say, the bike ride, or you get to 102nd Street on the run and you say, I've had it, I'm done, home is across the street, I'm just going to go home, and you don't give someone your chip, we have an unaccounted racer. The first place that we start looking is the water. And we've utilized a lot of resources in the past few years to start searching for people. So please, if you leave the race course for any reason, please give back your chip. Otherwise, we will be searching for you, and it might, exhaust some valuable resources that we have. Again, if there's a problem, please go to my medical tent, and we can take care of whatever you need. Other thing that's really important is family appreciation. You've trained hard, hopefully, for this race. You've sacrificed your time, your time. Appreciate them after the race. I find that my wife is often a widow before the race, and then we're a happy family after the race. So hopefully you will do the same. I think that's all I have to say. My picture is on the left with Joe Gelworth, who's on the left there. We are the two kind of co-race directors. We will be on the course. If you see us, say hello to us. We'll say hello to you. If there's a problem, please let us know, and hopefully we can make your race a happy and a healthy one. So if you have any questions, please let Alexa know. You can type them in, and I will do my best, or she can do her best, to help answer those questions for you.
Great. So I'll start by first addressing the question we were speaking of during the webinar regarding the temperature of the water. So historically, our average temperature usually comes out to 76 degrees, and that's probably what we'll kind of expect to see on race day this year as well. And so that would make us wetsuit legal, being under 78 degrees. So you can plan to have those wetsuits, but just keep in mind that the final call will be in transition on race morning. From our questions, our first question I will help answer here. It is, will everyone be swimming with the current, or regardless of the time that they get into the water? Absolutely. Every athlete will be swimming with the current. current strength is going to vary. With the pros are probably going to have a pretty quick swim this year, but everyone is going to be swimming with the current. It won't be against you at any point, so there's nothing to worry about there. Now this is one regarding injuries. We have an athlete here that is having some pain in his calf. He's assuming that it might be a tendon between his leg and ankle. Should he run between now and the event?
I think if there's some discomfort with running, I probably wouldn't. Again, like I said, in the next week to week and a half, find nothing that you're going to do that's actually going to benefit you in terms of increasing your speed. I think what you can do is certainly get on the bike if it doesn't bother you. You could try and transition to an elliptical trainer. If you need be, certainly having a physical therapist take a look at you and do some light soft tissue work might be helpful to you. But again, like I said, at this point in time, your engine, so-called cardiovascular engine, is built. It's really just about fine-tuning and getting healthy. So I would try to avoid running. If you said to me the day before the race, gee, I just want to go and try and, maybe run a mile and see how I feel, I think that's not inappropriate. I might warm up well, first maybe on the bike, and then maybe just test it on a treadmill, go a lot slower than you normally would, and just see how it's tolerating. But I think I would try and cross-train through this and maybe have a physical therapist look at you.
Great, thanks. Next question that we have here, what kind of nutrition would you recommend during the race? Just dew and gel blocks, or would you recommend power bars as well?
Nutrition is a very individual thing. I think for a race that's 3 to 4 hours, if that's your race pace, it's something that you need to be able to ingest and digest, for that matter. We have to understand that when we're exercising, most of our blood flow leaves our intestinal area and goes to our extremities. And that's why solid nutrition is often more difficult to digest. So what we like to do is eat simple sugars. Those are easily digestible, some glues, gel blocks. But again, I would say to you, this is the perfect time now to try and experiment with those. The worst, everybody always says, don't try something new on race day. I've been in that situation, and I have tried those things. And have they backfired? Yes, it's backfired. But it's also worked sometimes, so you never really know. It's also how easily is the stuff carried. Is it easy to unwrap, a bar versus, ripping off the top of a glue package? I think it's better to have, a softer food substance than a harder food substance, especially at a race at this distance. When you start talking races that are longer distance, then that's a whole different story, and it becomes very individual for that particular racer.
All right, I'll take on our next question. Do we have to wear the race number on the bike, or can we just put that on for the run? So that's a great question. You do not need to wear your bib number on the bike, but your bike, of course, will have your bike number, and your helmet number as well. And then you'll have your tri-tats on the side. So that's how we'll identify you on the bike. And then you just got to make sure that you either put another shirt on or put your bib number onto your shirt or on your race belt to get that on ready to go for the run. And keep in mind, always keep those bibs facing forward, because that's our best way to identify you while we're taking photos of you out on the course.
Yeah, I would just say, Alexa, to that, from experience in racing, I like to have the least moving part. And what I often do is put a race belt on and attach my number to the race belt. And I actually put it underneath my wetsuit. And I usually do it facing towards the back. And I get it on. So when I take off my wetsuit and I'm on my bicycle, I have it facing towards the back. And I don't have to touch it. And then when I get on the run, I just spin it around, and it's sitting on the run. Not everybody's comfortable with that, but I like to not have to worry about transition. I need to clip this on, clip that on. I just want it there, right from the start. So that's a suggestion. But again, I think as Alexa said, it's really important on the run, but those race numbers really help us identify you.
Perfect, thank you. Our next question was regarding relays. So can you talk a little bit about the relay transition chip? So with the chip in transition, so the swimmer is going to be the one that receives the chip in their packet. They'll have to pick up their chip strap and have that all ready to go. So they're the ones that are, of course, going to start off with that chip. Once the swimmer comes all the way into transition and meets the biker, and then the biker meets the runner right off their same transition area, that's where you're going to exchange the chip. So you want to make sure that you're fully into transition, and then pass it over. Take the strap off your ankle, hand it to the biker, make sure that they have it secured, ready to go before exiting transition. You don't want any confusion with your times by trying to take it off beforehand or trying to take it off after you've left transition. So any questions about that? If you still have questions about relays, please feel free to shoot us an email and we'll be able to help you out. Regarding wetsuits, do you have to wear a wetsuit if you swim better without one? Definitely not. So wetsuit legal means that you can wear a wetsuit whether you like it or not. It's totally up to you. If we were above 78 degrees, you wouldn't be allowed to wear a wetsuit. So if under that and you still don't want to wear one, that's totally your preference. All right, next question. Can you talk a little bit more about salt tablets?
So again, salt tablets. I am not a huge advocate of salt tablets, but I'll tell you an anecdotal story. I raced Ironman Hawaii, and that was the lore back then, is that you had to have salt. And I had my little film canister filled with my salt tablets, and when I went to reach in my back pocket at mile 20, I didn't have any salt tablets. So, you know, I had to change my race plan. It was hard begging other people on the bike, you know, to give me their salt tablets. But you know, obviously when we sweat, we lose salt. Some people are higher salt losers than other people. That's something that you don't necessarily know, but you can make an assessment of that. So if there's a hot, awful day outside and you're sweating and you happen to look at the black shorts or black shirt that you're wearing and there's a line of salt that's sitting there, you're probably one of those individuals that loses a lot of salt. That's why drink preparations have high salt content in them, or relatively high salt content in them. I think more importantly is that you deal with your hydration than anything else. I don't think necessarily salt tablets are the answer for everybody. I think they can be somewhat irritating to the stomach. If you've certainly never tried them before or you don't accompany them by adequate fluid hydration. So if you've never really taken salt tablets, I would not experiment at this point in time with them per se. But again, I think you just have to remember that whatever food that you are ingesting should have salt in them. So this is not, you know, a race where you're eating jelly beans and drinking water, and that's your only nutrition. The Gatorade that's on the course has salt in it. You know, some of the food substances, some of the gel blocks, you know, have salt in them. So you do want to take in salt. Can you overload yourself in salt? You can. We often worry about those with people who have kidney disease. If you don't have kidney disease, then, you know, you usually pee out all of that salt. But I'd be careful about salt tablets from the perspective of they can irritate your stomach and cause some gastrointestinal stress. And most people don't really need them in a race of this duration.
Okay, our next question that you probably have some good experience on, Mark, is what do you wear under your wetsuit?
Well, the only other anecdotal story was Ironman Lake Placid, and there was an individual from Japan who had on a wetsuit, and when they went to the wetsuit strippers, he had nothing on underneath. So I will tell you, don't go naked underneath. That's what I wouldn't do. He actually had to run about 150 yards to transition totally naked to get his clothes on. I normally wear my clothing, and that's why lubing, using Body Glide, is essential because I don't change my clothes. Within the first 15 to 20 minutes, like, you will completely dry yourself out. But I think that, again, if this is something that you've never done before, I get in a pool, get in a shower, I don't care what you do, you know, and try your clothing on underneath your wetsuit. But that's what I do. Again, from a racing perspective and losing valuable time in transition, I want to have your clothes on underneath. But again, I will make a suggestion that, I lather up with Body Glide because one, it's a very safe product in terms of clothing as opposed to necessarily using Vaseline or some petroleum-based compound. But I've knock on wood, have not had any issues with rubbing or anything along those lines.
Okay, great. Our next question is regarding the bike. As we know, there is a steep hill out of the transition area. Is it permitted to dismount and walk this steep hill, or is it even a good idea? We would say, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I would say if you had to walk, you could walk it. I dare say that you can easily get up it in the small chain ring in the front and the rear chain, big chain ring in the back. I mean, it's only maybe 10 or 15 yards. It's not that long.
No, it's a technical climb, but you will be able to get up it. But if you do feel like you need to walk it, we would suggest definitely staying as far to the side as you can. Okay, our next question is: are massages a good idea in these 2 weeks, and what about in the last week?
Yeah, it's not unreasonable. I would go for a light massage. I don't think that I would do any serious deep tissue work at this point in time. A good sports massage where stretching is involved, I think is very helpful. If we were all professional athletes, we'd probably get a massage every single day. So I think from a recovery standpoint, it can be helpful, but I would avoid very aggressive deep tissue work at this point.
On a similar respect to that, besides icing and elevation, what would you do to help bruising that's caused by falling off the bike this past weekend?
Yeah, some soft tissue massage is very helpful. That can help kind of move, some of that bruising around. Compression, if it's of the lower extremity and you can utilize a compression sock, that would be also helpful. People have used arnica in the past in helping mobilize some of that. Kinesio tape might be helpful in this scenario, but you'd have to, have someone apply that for you. But again, I think mostly soft tissue massage and mobilization of that tissue is probably the best answer for that. Oh, heat would be helpful. Warm soaks would be helpful.
Okay, regarding the course, we're back to the bike course. Are there any major hills, and how hilly would you say that the bike course is?
I mean, unless Alexa knows the elevation of it, the first half and back half of the course is not very hilly. I mean, it's a gentle climb up to the GW, and then it's some rolling hills. The climb up to the turnaround spot at Moshlu is, a pretty good hill. It's not terrible. But the climb from going down that hill at Moshlu back up to Henrietta, that's a pretty good climb. Again, I don't know the elevations, but maybe it's 200 feet, maybe somewhere there. But, I don't think people race that and go relatively quickly, but it's a little bit of a rolling course, the upper portion of it.
Absolutely. Regarding the swim, what is the likelihood of the swim is being canceled if it rains the week before the race? We tested the water bacteria several times during race week, so you will know ahead of time if there is anything to that, and we'll absolutely be having all communication out if that should be the case. Go ahead.
No, my only comment is, it is always good practice with a race like this that you should make sure your immunizations are up, and up to date, and one of those would be tetanus. The water's moving so quickly, there's really often no debris or anything that's in the water at that point. So again, as Alexa said, it would really only be if there was significant rain, within the few days prior that there's a large runoff from the sewer systems, but that would be the only reason.
Absolutely. In terms of heat and sun on the run, is it better to wear a visor versus a hat?
You know, here's the answer to that. You know, your most heat is released through your head. You know, a visor is great to keep the sun out of your eyes. So are sunglasses. It's been shown actually that you know, you're in a much more relaxed state if you don't have to squint your eyes. I personally don't like wearing a hat because I feel that I don't have that exposure to allow for heat release. So personally, I would say a visor is probably a better option. Some people like a hat because then with a hat, you can actually put a sponge or you can put ice up under it. So depending upon the day and your preference, I just don't like wearing hats. But again, I'm not sure that there's, you know, any one particular opinion that's right or that's wrong with that.
All right. Do you happen to have any tips when it comes to managing jet lag for those participants that are coming from abroad or from the West Coast?
I would just, you know, again, you stay hydrated. That's the biggest thing. No drinking on the airplane, because that's the killer. I would just try and as much rest as possible and stay hydrated. It's always much harder coming from the West Coast to the East Coast. You know, I try and get some ample rest in the day prior to the race. Most people, including myself, rarely sleep, you know, the night before a race just because of the anxiety beforehand. Other than staying hydrated and getting rest a few days beforehand, there's really no way to change that.
How do you hold or carry the nutrition during the bike and the run?
Certainly for the bike, there are a variety of ways. I mean, depending on what you're wearing, most bike jerseys, a lot of triathlon jerseys, have pockets that you can put your nutrition in. There are things called bento boxes, B-E-N-T-O, that fit on the top tube that allow easy access to food. Some people tape, you know, their power bars to the top tube. I've actually even seen in the early days someone taking power bars out of the wrapper and just wrapping them around the frame. Now, I can tell you that's not a great idea because they end up getting stuck to the frame, and then to clean them is not a lot of fun. But there's a lot of, you know, devices that are out there, and I often use what's called a bento box, and it works great. And it's certainly large enough, you know, if you had to put a hamburger in there, you can certainly do that, and it'll certainly suffice, you know, to put in your nutrition for the bike. And in terms of on the run, you know, it's really 1, maybe 2 packets of goo. If you don't want to use the clip shots that are at the first aid station, race belts have little devices that you can attach them, you know, to the belt. And again, that's a great idea. Even more reason to have a race belt with your number on it and attach the goos right to that race belt, and you can use that on the bike and on the road at the same time. And you'll find there's actually some good companies that I think might be actually at the expo that have those types of race belts that you can purchase.
Great. We have another question about the wetsuits. Is it not? Are you not allowed to wear a wetsuit if it's above 78, or are you just ineligible for awards? The correct answer for that is that you can still wear a wetsuit if it's above 78 degrees, but you will be ineligible for the awards. If we ever were to get up to 84 degrees in the water, you would be allowed to wear a wetsuit and you'd be allowed to race if you had one on. But at 78, you'll still be able to be disqualified for awards. All right, another one about nutrition. You'll be passing out nutrition or gels on the run. We will have cliff shots at the first aid station when you get into Central Park on the run. That's the only point that we'll be passing out nutrition, but you'll see at all 5 aid stations we will have water and Gatorade available for athletes. What suggestions do you have for dealing with recent lower back pain on the sides?
Again, that can be from a variety of reasons, whether it's just overuse, whether it's an injury, whether it's actually bike fit. If you're new to the triathlon world and you've made a transition to a new bike, whether it's a road bike from a mountain bike or a tri-bike from a road bike, bike fit is essential. So if you've not had someone, and this might not be the correct time to have someone fit you on your bike, but you might want to look at that to ensure that your bike fit is correct. That's often the number one reason cyclists, one of the number one problems that cyclists have is lower back pain and neck pain. But again, if it's just isolated to that region, in the next 1 to 2 weeks, some stretching can be helpful, some heat will often be indicated at this time.
Great, and our last question here for the evening is just it's a simple one. And what are your last words of wisdom that you would give for any newbies, anyone that's doing their first triathlon?
I would not stress this race in any way, shape, or form. From my experience at triathlon, I don't love to swim, and I would stress every minute of the day about the swim. This is the one that literally I have seen people float down the river doing backstroke, doing side stroke, enjoying themselves. I would go out with the idea that this is your race and no one else's race. And especially as a newbie, unless you have some, incredible aspirations about winning your age group, go out and have fun. Encourage other people on the course. The reason why I flocked to triathlons was because the community is a very enthusiastic and supportive community. And even though I'm racing, I'll go by someone and say, you're doing a great job. Encourage other people. They'll encourage you. It will make for a great day. Thank the volunteers out there because they really make or break your race. They're there to help you and to support you. And enjoy every minute of it because, first of all, the venue that you're going in is one of the nicest venues that's around. It's in the heart of the Big Apple, and get this race going and to have it sanctioned and have it closed for all the racers is an incredible feat, a logistical feat that we have to thank the organizers for. But I think just enjoy every minute of it. But be prepared. Think about the race. Visualize the race beforehand. Walk through what you're going to do in the morning in terms of breakfast, what you're going to eat, how you're getting to the race, what you're bringing. Make a list of everything that you need in transition so that you're not running around at 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, my God, where's this, where's that? I have a pre-race checklist. Go through it. And I'll tell you, I go through it again and again and again. But at least you've got it written down on a piece of paper, everything that you will need. And you can walk through the race and visualize it that way. I think that will make you a lot more comfortable and make the day a lot greater.
Perfect. And as always, we can definitely continue the conversation offline. If you have any questions at all that you still are worried about relating to the race, please don't hesitate to give us a call or shoot an email, info@nyctri.com. We definitely look forward to seeing everyone out there.
Thanks, Alexa. Thanks, everybody. Have a great race, and we'll be out there to help you.